Hey, everybody, welcome to the It Shouldn't Happen to Us podcast. On today's episode, we talk about the pre-call plan. We'll talk you through the elements of the pre-call plan, and at the end, we'll share with you how to get a pre-call plan from us. So stay tuned.
Straight from the heart of Miami, this is It Shouldn't Happen to Us. After 30 years of selling and training sales teams, we still screw it up sometimes, and this is where we tell you all about it, because it shouldn't happen to us. So, how are you, Sophia?
I'm great. It's been raining so much here in Miami, and we've been needing that, and it's got me in kind of a cool vibe. The rain, I feel like I've been putting on a lot of instrumental, low-key instrumental music in the background, and I've been hyper focused, feeling focused.
You just couldn't be any cooler than you are. You're just like the biggest scoop of cool. I know Sebastian. Every time I see the rain now, I know Sebastian loves to play. Sebastian's my son, for those watching. He loves to play football in the rain. But we have so many roofing clients. We've got quite a few roofing clients, roofers. And every time I see the rain now, I think, the boys are going to have a good time this week. Because whenever the rain comes down, I'm thinking, and if it's dry for like a month, which in Miami, over the winter, it can be dry for a couple of months. Those guys have a torrid time. But when the rains come down, those guys make hay. They really do.
Yeah. So what do you got going on?
So I remember, I've just had a crazy few days as always, but I remember that in the last pod, I made a promise, and we should always fulfill our promises, right? If we make a promise to the universe, we should always fulfill our promises. So I made a promise that I was going to talk about pre-call planning.
That's right.
So that is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to talk about pre-call planning. And I'll contextualize it for you. I'll tell you why that was relevant this week and why it's a great example of it shouldn't happen to us. But why don't you start off by telling the world about why pre-call plans are so important? What's the theory here?
Well, to start off with, the most primitive reason why we should have a pre-call plan is think about how hard it is to score a meeting. You finally score a meeting and you're not going to prepare for it. So what is the pre-call plan? It's having an appointment, a date with yourself to really get in alignment with how you would like that meeting to end. Right? So
is it Jim Collins that says, I think it's Jim Collins that says, begin with the end in mind. I think that's one of the 7 habits of highly effective people. Begin with the end in mind. Exactly right.
And it's such an easy tool to skip. It's such an easy step to skip because us sales professionals out here, we kind of shoot from the hip. We know our stuff. We do this every day. We're people. We just are in the business of helping people. We're compelling. We look good. We smell good. We can improvise, right? And wrong. We shouldn't. It shouldn't happen to us.
100%. Shouldn't happen to us. What is it? Do you remember Marcus used to say? And I think this is a bit of a purist view.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think this is too far.
It's a little elitist.
What was it that Marcus used to say?
He's like, anyone on my team anyone on my team who doesn't send me a pre-call plan before their sales call gets fired.
Yeah, it was
Something
too much.
Like
he said any salesperson who doesn't walk into a sales call with a pre-call plan already prepared should be fired. And I remember thinking, Marcus.
It's a little much, but we catch his drift.
I get the, the theory. I get the philosophy here. And it's interesting when as well as I do, whenever we teach pre-call plans, I always get the same challenge. I'm sure you do as well. So we're teaching pre-call plans and clients are looking at me like, really, Carlos? This is a heavy lift. And there's always somebody at the back brave enough to put the hand up and say you're supposed to do this before every sales call. And I love it when I get asked that question because I always give the Zig Ziglar answer. the story here is Zig Ziglar, who was like one of the sales world's greats. He said he gives the story of him being in the dentist, and the dentist was telling him to floss his teeth. Got to floss your teeth twice a day, Zig. And Zig says to the dentist, that's a lot of work, flossing the teeth. He said, like every tooth, you've got to floss every tooth twice a day. And the dentist said to Zig, oh, of course not. No. You don't have to floss every tooth. Only the ones you want to keep. And it's a great analogy, right? No, you don't have to pre-call plan every call. Only the calls that you want to be successful.
That's all.
The ones you're not bothered about, you don't bother with
Wing
those. Wing it. Exactly right. Well, of course, like you, I know the theory. I teach the theory. And I would say, when I'm busy, do I drop that ball regularly? I got to admit that I do, and I should really know better. The reason this was relevant last week, and the reason I mentioned it in the pod last week, was that I just happened to have a sales call that I was going on. And I happened to be at 9 o'clock, and I had to drop Isabella off somewhere at 7 o'clock in the morning. And it only took me about half an hour between where I dropped her off and getting to the sales call. So I had an hour and a half to kill. And you know what? I was kind of on top of all my stuff. And I was like, God, what am I going to do for an hour and a half? And I thought, do you know what? I'm going to review the intro call on that call because I was a good guy. I recorded the intro call, put it in HubSpot like I'm supposed to. Doesn't always happen. Put it in HubSpot, put the intro call in HubSpot. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to listen to this call just to remind myself. And I was playing it in my head, and I thought, I remember everything that was said in that call. I was like, I only a 30-minute call, and it was a cool call. I remember what was said. But I listened to it, and I was like, oh, wow, I forgot he said that, and I forgot he said that, and I forgot he said that. And then I thought, and he said a few things on the intro call, and it's always great technique, guys, great technique if you're listening to this. If you can play back specific phrases that are played to you, it's huge bonding that, right? Huge bonding. And if you can use phraseology that is that's reflective of the what the prospect says to you, it's massive bonding.
Like, for example, if they said, you notice that they said apples to apples a couple times, use that. Yeah.
Or even, for a phrase like apples to apples,
even once.
I'd only need to hear that once and think, I'm playing that back.
It sounds so silly, but it's
massive.
It's massive.
Massive. I've won clients where I've seen the whole energy of the meeting change when I've used one of their phrases with them. We use one of their phrases back to them. Now, of course, you can't do it conspicuously. Like when you become a kind of a master and your radar's picked it up, and you can casually put that into conversation with a casual confidence. It's massive to be able to do that. So I'm scribbling these phrases down, and then it occurred to me, wait a minute, this is one of the steps in the pre-call plan. I'm supposed to have done this in my pre-call plan. What an idiot am I? I've got an hour, because now I've listened to the call for half an hour. Well, I actually listened to it on double speed, so I had a little longer than an hour. I thought, you know what? I'm going to pre-call plan this sucker, and I'm going to do it properly. So I opened up our tool, pre-call plan tool, and it was massively powerful. Just to go through that that discipline of, I'll step out the steps of a pre-call plan later, or Sophia and I'll do it between us. But to go through that methodology of just reminding myself, what are the goals of this meeting? What's my home run look like? What's my double look like? What's my mindset going into this question? Then here was they're all magic steps. What are the key questions I want to make sure I ask? That's one of the biggest ones for me, just to remind myself, because I'm pretty good at questions. Like Antonio wrote the book on questions. I'm a big fan of having killer questions ready at my fingertips. But just to go through that discipline of like, you know what, I have to make sure I ask that question. I have to make sure I ask that question. Questions designed to uncover problems, to uncover discomforts, to get emotionally connected. Those really powerful questions. And I just, would I have caught them in the meeting if I hadn't pre-call planned? I'd have probably caught 75% of them. But the power of doing that pre-call plan and then figuring out what's he going to ask me, and what's my answer to what he's going to ask me, and what's my ideal next step, and like, am I prepared? Have I got everything I need for the meeting? Have I reviewed the pain survey? I just like the full to do it properly. And as I sat there in Starbucks, like a crazy person, reminding myself how powerful the process it is, I sat there and I thought, you know what? I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot because for an hour's meeting, it's huge dollars that turn on that hour. You know, there's lifetime customer value for us, you know, is anywhere from 15,000 to 1.5 million, depending on the size of the opportunity. Turning in on an hour's meeting, and that isn't, I'm so rich that I'm not going to put another 45 minutes in to prep and do that meeting properly. How arrogant is that? And I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. I have a lot of sympathy for our clients who drop these balls every day.
Oh, me too. You know, this goes back to another episode. We talked about time blocking. If you don't put that pre-call plan date with yourself in the calendar, us salespeople, we're being pulled in we're selling, we're prospecting, we're account managing. Our calendars are slammed. If you don't put that meeting on your calendar and then follow that by putting that pre-call plan date somewhere before the meeting, it probably is not going to happen. It's probably not going to happen.
Unless you've got somebody holding you accountable, and that's where your role as the leader of our merry band, right here in Miami, your role as the leader of our merry band, holding them accountable for them, not for you, not for me.
Yep.
For them, holding them accountable for them is one of the huge value levers that you pull as the leader of that team. But I'm gonna guess, and I don't know, because you don't you never complain about your team to me, right? And that's cool. You shouldn't do that. That'd be a bad thing to do. You never do that. But if you were, I imagine there's times where they resist. I imagine there's times where, and remember, we're supposed to know what we're doing, right? We're the gurus. We're supposed to know what we're doing. And even then, I bet they like, oh, I didn't do my pre-call plan. Or are they good? Are they good with it? I mean, I know they're accountable to you for doing all this good discipline.
You know why they're good with it? Because they have their cookbook, meaning they have their behaviors that they have to report to me on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. And I have my manager behaviors. I have my leader behaviors that I'm showing them. So part of those behaviors is having a pre-call plan. If you have an appointment on your calendar, I want to see a pre-call plan in my inbox 24 hours beforehand.
Oh, scary tough. You just got scary tough then, Sophie. Sorry. It happened in your body language, in your eye. You got steeliness to your eyes when you said that.
Right. And on my cookbook, I want to have a pre-call planning session with you, whether it be on the Friday afternoon checkout. Hey, you got a meeting next week. Let's maybe we fill out the tool together, or we can just start, putting some things down on paper there. Hey, what do you got next week? What kind, what kind of company is it? What's the size of the company? What are the questions that for sure they're going to ask you? Because that's just as important as the questions we're going to ask them. What are the questions that your spidey sense tells you they're for sure going to ask you? And how are you going to respond? Are you going to reverse? How are you going to resist the ego and not go ahead and go into education mode? We have such a great story to tell mode. What are you going to say? What are the questions we get asked by our prospects every day? Price. How long does it take? How does it work? Right?
Yeah. Are you ready with your reverses on those questions? And I always like to have it reminded me how powerful it is, because when I write down the questions they're going to ask me, I do them in 2 blocks. Mm-hmm. So in block 1, these are the questions I'm pretty confident they're going to ask me, and I'm ready with my answers. Block 2, here are the questions I want them to ask me.
Ooh.
Now, some of them they hit and some of them they don't, but it's so, because there are those questions that, like, for example, don't we love it when a prospect says to us, hey, what kind of impact do you typically have on the team? What do you normally see in results? Mm-hmm. Love that question, right? Because now we can really get out the show. Like, whew. What would good look like in your world? And like, what would you expect? And once you've reversed a few times, then you're like ready to blow their mind, because we have 2x, 3x, 4x results on businesses. Now, but what if I've not got that on my list of questions I want them to ask me, now I can plant the seed, right? You're probably wondering what kind of results we have. Right? If they don't ask me, then I'm going to plant that in. I'm going to say, hey, you're probably wondering this. That makes sense. A lot of people ask us that. It's usually around now, George, that people are asking me, tell me about the impact. Is that something that's on your agenda? George says, oh, yeah. What George is thinking is, well, it wasn't, but it is now. And now, well, tell me about impact. And then I can't just go straight for the show because that's too obvious. Then you've got to do a little finesse around that question. Tricky question. I'm going to go a little negative. Tricky question to answer. Tell me how you'd look at results, George. And I'm going to put enough sort of cognitive space between me planting that seed and me answering that question with passion and with a strong message. I've got to put a little cognitive distance in there, just with some cool reverses and a little bit of some other questions that I'm going to ask, and then I'm going to blow the guy's mind with the results that we drive and the data points, because we're rich in data points, right? So let's just go through that again. For the team, for the viewers and the listeners here, I'm going to take you through that whole tool. And you know what? If anybody emails us, I'll send you a pre-call plan. Email me or Sophie. Email me or Sophia and say, listen to the pod. I've subscribed, because that's the deal, guys. That's how we can bring you some great content and support, is if you subscribe either on, I don't know, Spotify or Apple Podcasts or on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. That's all we're going to. And you know what? We don't know if you've done it. So it's going to be like, that's trust. We're going to trust you. So you're going to say, love the podcast. I've subscribed. Give us a stroke. Love the podcast. I've subscribed. I'd love to see the pre-call plan. And I'll shoot you a copy of our pre-call plan. Our pre-call plan is solid. It starts right at the top. What are the goals of this meeting? And don't underestimate the power of understanding where you want to go. What are the goals of this meeting? The next box is my personal favorite. The next box. What's my mindset for this call? For this meeting, what kind of energy am I bringing? Am I consultative? Am I curious? Am I fun and high energy? Am I going to be challenging? Have I got to, shake the guy loose? Have I got to be a little bit, have I got to play this one a little bit calmer? Have I got to be the consultant? Have I got to be the country doctor or the New York surgeon? Like, what's my mindset for this meeting? That for me is where 50% of the value sits, right in that box. To really land that properly and to be in the right character in the meeting, hugely powerful. So we've got goals, we've got mindset, we've got what's my kind of agreement for the meeting. So I just want to remind myself, why was this meeting set up? What had we agreed we were going to do in this meeting? What are the questions I want to ask? Some of my killers, make sure I don't miss any of them. What are the questions I'm ready for that I'm going to get asked? And what are the questions that I want to make sure I'm asked, if in case they're missed by Mr. or Mrs. Prospect? What are the next steps? And then some practicalities. Have I LinkedIn connected? Have I got anything I might need with me? Have I got a contract with me? I mean, you shouldn't walk into it. You don't know that they're not ready to sign. We should go in ready, And now I'm not going to force feed somebody a contract, but have I got a contract in case somebody wants to rip one out of my hand and sign it? Who knows? They might be ready.
I learned that lesson early on. Go in with the contract. That was one of my first sales lessons. That you never know. You never know.
No, you don't go in waving it. Hey, if all goes well today, I'm going to have your signature. You don't go in like a lunatic.
No.
But you're ready in case they say, hey, let's do it. God, You know what? If you're sure, I'm sure. And get it out the bag. So have you got a contract? Have you got the stuff that you need? You might, depending on what you're selling, you might need some equipment with you, or you might see, you might need something with you. Have I missed anything from my pre-call plan?
I'm intrigued by your tool. I've been using a different tool. I mean, I guess, just be mindful, folks, that the modern buyer is expecting you to do more research and more homework than ever before. And so if any of the answers to your questions, you can find them on Google or LinkedIn, they're probably not great questions. However, looking them up on LinkedIn beforehand and checking out their website can really enrich your bonding and rapport questions for those first 5 minutes of the call. So, who are we speaking to? Where are they from? Did they go to school in the same, place that they were from? Where they worked beforehand? Getting to know the prospect ahead of time and having some of those points in your notes can be helpful too, so you don't sound like every other sales guy that walks in there and says, "Oh, you play golf."
Now, let me just put the icing on that, because I know what goes through some people's minds when they hear that. I've honestly had clients say to me, so I have to stalk them beforehand. Like, this is the mindset. Some people, I'm like, whoa, you're not stalking somebody. You're legitimately interested in them. Yeah. I'd wear that as a badge. Nobody's ever said it to me, but if somebody ever said to me, hey, I saw you were looking at my LinkedIn profile, because you can see who's looked at your LinkedIn profile. Hey, I saw you were looking at my LinkedIn profile. I'd wear that as a badge of honor.
Absolutely.
You're absolutely right, George. This is an important meeting for me. I prepare for important meetings. Part of my preparation is to get to know you a little better. Are you uncomfortable with that? I mean, I'd wear that as a badge of honor.
Absolutely.
Important meeting. So hey,
So
what's the wrap up for today, Sophia? Wrap it up for us.
Just do the pre-call plan and email us. If you don't know where to start with the pre-call plan, send me or Carlos an email letting us know that you love the pod, that you've subscribed to us either on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts, and go ahead and ask us for that pre-call plan tool, and we're happy to share it with you.
Amazing. Hey, good selling out there, folks. It's goodbye from Sophia.
And ta-ta for now from Carlos.